on the range. It's Gemini month. We got to take care of ourselves in our season. We got to do that self care review. But when I want to say this, I remember back in the day, not too far back in the day, maybe like 2012, 2013, people would always say, "Oh, you slept with all them people and you got soul ties. You got soul ties with all these people." And when you become more spiritually evolved, you realize that, well, not all of us realize this, and this is my perception, and this is a part of what I feel in my heart as a person who practices Laylim Layler as a spiritual practice. And Laylim Layler is about wholeness. And so, in understanding that I am whole, I realize that all things originate from a space and they expand. And so, if all things originate from a space, then all things are inherently connected. Sort of like, in the Bible when they tell us everybody came from Adam and Eve, which we know is probably not true. There was probably beings before that. There was probably one being before that split and just kept splitting and just kept splitting. But we all come from the same place. I think that we're all mirrors of each other. I think that we go into tribes, we go into herds, or whatever you want to call it. We go into packs, we go into groups, we go into communities, we go into cities, villages, whatever label or title you want to put on it. We are grouped in that way because these are energies, these are variables that, if for example, if it was a recipe to create who I am. So if I am a tablespoon of this and I'm a dash of that and I'm a pinch of this, then my tribe is going to be more likely people who are also a dash of this, a spoonful of that, and a pinch of this. And then over here, you may have another tribe where there are 2 teaspoons of this, where there are two teaspoons of this, one dash of, one pinch of that, and 1 tablespoon of this. So they would definitely be like different like energies. Like we would divide by our energies, but it's still all the same stuff. Like all the ingredients are still the same. We're just using different amounts of the same ingredients. Like literally, if I was to prepare a meal, like we may use different ingredients, we may use different amounts, but it's still all the same stuff, a man, a woman. So we're all literally connected. Like we are all connected. And so this idea of soul ties and, oh, you're gonna have a soul tie. I think because a lot of us don't do shadow work, a lot of us have not done that work to speak to those dead things, to communicate with those different seasons that exist within our celestial being and within our spiritual being, within our emotional being. With like we haven't tapped into that. Like we don't understand these connections. We don't have the ability to process everything that happens with these connections. And then that's when it becomes distorted. That's when it becomes skewed. That's when it becomes perverted. That's when, these things happen that make us feel shameful and make us look down on the act of connecting with each other in a physical or intimate or sensual way, because westernized culture has taught us to demonize the coming together in that way. We put so many stipulations on it. And I think we partly began to manifest all of the sickness and the perversions and the things that we view as negative that are associated with it. Like we've began to manifest that because of the lens in which we've been groomed and brought up and cultivated to look at to look at relations, to look at sexual relations. Like if you looking at sexual relations through a negative lens, if you're looking at intimacy through a lens that is tainted with rape and sex trafficking and pedophilia and all of these things that make the act um that take the sacredness away from the act, that take the beauty away from the act. You know, a lot of things that we do that have taken the beauty out of, you know, coming together. It helped us to manifest, you know, a lot of these sicknesses and a lot of these illnesses that are associated with sex, because we look at it through, for the most part, a Christian lens, through a Christian patriarchal lens that tells us that sex is meant to produce. Sex is meant to produce livestock up on this here plantation. If you ain't coming together to bring nothing here that's gonna works for massum up on this plantation, then what are you doing? Like what's going on? You know. So yeah, that's a real thing. Like that's a real conversation that we definitely needs to be able to have about sex. And I think that's why we look at sex as a shameful thing, and that's why we don't get a chance to have the full magic that comes from it. But when people start telling you, oh, you know, you got a soul tie, you sleeping with too many people, like you out here sleeping with this person and that person. Now, for me personally, because I am such a conductor for energy and I am such an empathic person, and I'm still doing a lot of work around understanding all of that. Like I'm still figuring so much of that out. Like participating in orgies and taking on all that type of energy, like I'm just not there yet. And that's some things that that I think I have to decolonize in my mind, like because I've never been like comfortable with orgies. Like I think I participated in one orgy when I was like, I want to say 17 years old, after I got punched in the mouth. um I got punched in the mouth. Like I've been on dates where it was like couples, like maybe I was having sex with the wife while the other person was having sex with the husband, or it was a double date, and you know it was two girls and one guy, or you know it was a couple and me, you know, a husband and wife and me. Like I've done that, but not like full on orgy, not like um or it's been, or like I've maybe had like one train ran on me. I may have had a train run on, or may have had a train run on me. Um, I think like once, like I wouldn't really consider like two people like running a train on you. So like me, like my idea of someone running a train on me would be like multiple guys. And so maybe I've had a train ran on me once with like multiple guys, and I was in a different space during that time. But I don't I don't know. I feel like the way that I've been conditioned by society, like being that sexually liberated, is still um that's still like something that there's work for me to do around it. Like I don't condemn certain things the way that I used to. And I think I did that a lot with my daughters, like and I think that was me trying to free myself from it, because I thought, oh, if I'm not doing sex work anymore, like you can't judge me for that. Like you can't put me down, you know, for being a sex worker, because you know that's what's always associated with being trans and you know being queer. Like, oh, they're demonic, they're having sex, and everybody having sex. And I've been being celibate since January, and I've had periods where I go like a long time without having sex, and I do get clarity. And like now, it's just, for me, sex is a distraction, because so many people that I would be willing to engage with sexually, I don't feel like spiritually we have the same intentions or we're headed in the same direction. And so, is this act going to create the magic that I want? Is it going to manifest what I want? Is it going to produce the fruit that I want? Whether it's a feeling, whether it's a union, whether it's release, you know, is it going to give me the kind of release I want? Is it going to give me the kind of just just upliftment, just like the kind of empowerment. And what I find in a lot of these unions, these sexual unions, like that release is very fleeting, and it's very transactional. And that's not what I want my sexual energy to be in this chapter or this era of my life. Like I'm approaching 50. I'm fixing to be 47, and like in this era of my life, I don't want the magic of sex or the magic of relationships or connections in that way. I don't want to commodify it. I do want to have more quality experiences. I'm definitely not shaming people who are still in that phase of commodifying it or even just looking at it as transactional. But like I'm in this space where I am like legit trying to like open portals, like, and that's what I want the union to do. Like I want to open portals. Like I want to be transported to a space, and when I come back from that space, like I can remember when I used to have sexual exchanges with guys when I was younger, and those exchanges would be like we would be transported to this beautiful nirvana, and it would just be a utopia, and we would just be just fully engaged with each other. But then when we would come back, we'd end up coming back through this door where where he was now ashamed because we were trans we were transported to this beautiful amazing place where we climaxed and we connected and we felt each other. But then we when we came back from there, we went back through this door where it was patriarchy and it was misogyny and it was sexism and it was this monotheistic religion that told him that he had to behave a certain way and he couldn't be associated with certain things in order to be respected as how he identified, in order for him to hold on to these privileges and all of this. So, like, even though it did open portals, it was like it transported us right back to this place of uh, this place where we could not rejoice over where the connection had taken us. Like we could not continue to rejoice happily over where this connection had taken us. And so now that is what I'm trying to cultivate. And I'm, taking time away from sex to focus on me and to just work on me and just work on me outside of that connection so that when the next time I go through that portal with whoever I go through that portal with, and we journey to that space of ultimate connection, and we journey to that space where we are fully immersed in each other, spiritually and physically. Like when we connect like that, when we come back from that space, we'll come back through a door where it is not a lopsided, misogynistic, sexist, anti-queer, um, feminine oppressing reality. Like we're not, like when we go there, like when we connect like that and we come back, we're not going to come back through a door with shame. We're not going to come back through a door with condemnation. We're not going to come back through a door where we feel like, we have to move in a certain way in order to maintain our respect or to maintain our dignity. We're not going to feel dirty. We're not going to feel like we've done something that was a sin, which simply means to go off target. No, like we hit the bullseye. Like this is what we intended to do. This is where we intended to go. This is how we intended to get there. And when we come back from that space, we're going to be even closer than we were when we were there. Mm. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. So I just wanted to, like, because I know I haven't talked about sex work on a live in a long time. Um, I don't look at it in the same way. Like I do understand the commodification of it. It is definitely the oldest kind of work that we've ever done. But it is so much, like sex work is so much more profound than we give it credit for. It's not just about bodies crashing together. It's not just about the release of juices and fluids. It is really about a profound connection, an ancient connection, keys going through doors, doors coming together and becoming um, um, voids and becoming greater portals and keys coming together, honey, and becoming like this master key set, like. You know what I'm saying? See, that's gonna go over some of y'all head. When I say keys coming together, that's the brotherhood basically, and then it becomes like this master key set. And then when you have all of these portals coming together, all these wombs coming together, and all of these pockets and cavities coming together, then you're creating this void. You're creating this huge negative space where we could just continue to create. And then there's the mixing of the keys and the doors and the pockets and the like there's all these mixing of these places. And yeah. And I think that when we deprogram the lens in which we look at this through, and that's going to be a lot of work. It's going to take a long time. It took hundreds of years to get us, this screwed up about intimacy. It took us hundreds of years to deviate from where our ancestors were and to look at this, through this lens of shame and putting labels on things that we ourselves were not called to do intimately, romantically, or spiritually, or things that we were called to do and we're just afraid to do. We feel suppressed. Um, we don't feel we don't have the freedom or the liberation to act upon those things that we think about doing. And so, like, I'm just in a different place, spiritually, when it comes to sex. And I will talk more about this later, but I did want to just put the conversation out there. And I just want to challenge everyone who gets a chance to watch this video to just like look at sex and um, strip it of all of this patriarchy and strip it of all of the colonizing the colonized ideas and the binary ideas, and just see the act for what it is, see the connection for the potential that it has, versus like strip it of everything that you've been taught, and just approach it again with a clear lens. Of course, um, you don't want to engage in the act with someone who is not um, in an age where they could give consent, where they are not. Some of us are in our 40s and, we're still struggling with the power that of sex magic. We're still struggling with the power of increasing that bond. Because, as I said in the beginning of the video, we're all connected. But then when you have that intimate bond with each other, you are more realized about that connection. That connection is more apparent. That connection is more obvious. That connection is undeniable. It's been reinforced and it's been reaffirmed. And so, um, you definitely don't want to have those experiences with someone who has not even finished getting their critical thinking matter. Like let their brain be them finished fully developing, and like they fully kind of understand who they are and understand what their purpose is, so that when y'all come together, it's not like you having to teach a person or you having to tell a person or y'all having to figure some things out because y'all have already been doing that work of understanding and connecting with each other prior to the physical connection. Y'all been doing that work spiritually to understand each other, doing that work spiritually to make that connection with one another. And so I think that that's important, like, and outside of all that, like, I have a whole bunch of ideas about sex. And one of the most important things to me, though, is is that it be with two consenting adults. Like that's really important for me. Like with all of the other stuff, I don't really have a problem with that. I don't really have an opinion about it. Yeah, I don't really have an opinion about, whether this is wrong or right, with people who are grown. You know, if if, if you like having sex with grown animals, I I don't understand it. I ain't. But I'm also not yucking the yum because, I feel like if an animal can't get themselves off and they grown and they need a little help, I don't judge nobody who say, oh, okay, let me go ahead and help you squeeze that L, bitch. Like, I'm not here to judge you if you see them over there struggling and they don't have no partner and you just want to. But the whole penetration act, like sticking objects inside of animals and having animals stick objects inside of you, I for me that's when that's when shit kind of go like that's above my pay grade when we start, putting our parts inside of, dogs and cats, and they're putting their parts inside of us. Like I saw a man put his penis inside of a snake, and I was like, that's I don't know. I feel like that's a lot, but maybe that's just above my pay grade. Maybe that's just above my pay grade. Maybe the snake gave consent. I don't know. I didn't see if before the video started, the snake had curled up around the penis and was like, just sitting there waiting to be ran up in. I don't know. I didn't. All I saw was the part of the video was when he was jugging the hell out the snake. So, yeah, I think my biggest thing is I don't really have too many opinions about bestiality, but I do have an opinion about pedophilia, and the reason why is because I was molested by both males and females as a child, and I've said that before in videos, and because of that, I'm a fierce guardian of children. I'm a fierce guardian of youth. I feel like they deserve the opportunity and the time to be able to figure out who they are with outside of sex. Just like they need the time to discover and figure out who they are outside of being exposed to drugs and alcohol. Like even the whole trans experience. Like work on loving yourself. Work on loving who you are. Work on accepting yourself. And then once your brain finishes developing and you're an adult, if these are things that you want to experience, if these are things that you want to do, then it's your body, it's your canvas, you're sovereign, you're autonomous. And I don't even feel like people are saying, no, you can't do this, no, it's not right. It's saying that we want to love on you and we want to protect you and we want to nurture you in this way, so that when it comes time for you to explore all of these other things, when it comes time for you to expand and increase and have these, you'll be fully aware. You'll be done had all of this time, and you'll be done had all of these seasons to really, really just figure things out, and the village is just coming around you and protecting you and kind of like nurturing you, and you're like we're not shielding you from conversations about certain things. Like we're not going to shield you from adult conversations, but we are going to be mature enough to have these conversations with you in a way that that are not that are not narrow, that are not told through a narrow lens. Like I told a child one time about sex, and when I was explaining to them about sex, I didn't call it sex, I called it the dance of creation. And I'm like, when you're ready to do this dance, you need to be mature enough to do this dance because this is the dance that can create things. It can bring physical life here. It can bring babies here. It can bring children here. And if it's with the wrong person, it can create a disease. It can create sickness. It can create a connection that causes codependence, like, and have you dependent on someone who may not be healthy for you. And so I just think it's about doing the work to be able to have these conversations with children in a way that is not necessarily vulgar, in a way that is not necessarily um, over sexualized, like in a way that is meant to to make sex look like it's just this fun ride, when it's so much bigger than that, when it's so much deeper than that. It's not just a fun ride. It's not just, we over here getting off. We over here swapping juices, bang, bang, bang. It's not just that. It's it's more than that. Like it is it is the intensification of a connection. It is like it's a you're fully immersed in one another. You're fully connected. You're fully engaged. You have become the primary focus for each other in this moment, and you are coming together. And it says, when two or more are gathered, the divine is present. I'm not gonna say he is in the midst because I don't subscribe to that, but when you gather and you agree upon something, whether it is spiritually, emotionally, sexually, you are in an agreement. And when you're in this agreement, it doesn't matter if you're gay, it doesn't matter if you're trans, it doesn't matter if you're bisexual, it doesn't matter if you're cis, it doesn't matter if you're binary. When you are doing that, you are in an agreement with one another. And you're in that moment, you are calling upon creation energy. You're calling upon divine energy. And so, are we going to minimalize it by just, you know, um, shaming it after it's done, like feeling empty? Like, I understand when you're young and you're figuring out yourself and you're learning yourself and you're exploring it, from that angle. Like, people, when you first come into it, honey, you want to see how many you could get, and how hard you could get it, and it's just all about the feeling, and it's all about the euphoria, and it's just all about that. But it's so much more than that, when you are willing to be fully present for the act, when you are willing to be fully present for that experience. And so I think that if we communicated that, I think that a lot more children would choose for themselves to wait. Like, if we had conversations with them that didn't just like demonize it and make it look like it's this, oh, you gonna get pregnant, or you gonna catch a disease, or your dick gonna fall off, or you gonna get in trouble for, like, if we don't have to tell those narratives in order to make youth feel more empowered to wait. If we just tell them, just the potential that could come out of it and the beauty of it, and how your brain needs to be ready to just really understand everything that you're signing up for. Like, I think a lot of them would naturally wait. I think a lot of them would be like, I don't want, like, I think it's a way to tell the story without, having to pervert it or shame it or um, make it look so, make it look negative. Like, I think there's a way to talk about sex without it having to be like, oh, you can't be a good person. You can't be a person who is trying to live their life, to do good things, and to be righteous, and talk about sex, unless you're talking about like some heterosexual binary sex that is gonna produce, some livestock for this here plantation, gonna bring us some kids, up on this plantation. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay to talk about that sex, because that sex is acceptable in the eyes of the status quo, in the eyes of Massa, in the eyes of Mr. Charlie. We's good with that one. We could talk about that, but we can't talk about this other sex, because we don't wanna fully unpack that, and we don't want the youth, and we don't want the children to We don't want their brains to function on that level. Like what really gets me with a lot of cis people, a lot of heterosexual people, is when they say, "Oh, you confusing the children." Their brain works better than ours. Their brain is less restricted. The memory is stronger. Like, especially if you're not feeding them a whole bunch of garbage, you're not feeding them a whole bunch of junk, but that's a whole nother video. But children can retain more information, and they have not been trained and programmed yet. And so their ability to understand and dissect and break down issues is greater than ours, because by the time we get to a certain age, we've been so brainwashed, we've been so mind screwed, and we've been so, our head them to play with so much. And so we be talking about confusing the children. It is not confusing. It's not confusing for them. They understand it, they get it, it makes absolute sense to them. There's no confusion for them about it. But we make it confusing because we don't allow ourselves to do that work of playing the whole tape in our mind. And so if we can't even play the whole tape, if we can't even see the full picture in our mind, and we're adults and we've been around 20, 30 years longer than them, and we can't even see the whole picture. So then when we get ready to tell them a piece of the picture, we're telling them the story from an even smaller lens, and then it continues to pass on like that. And this is why these children grow up and y'all be so worried about them. They're not confused, you confused. They're not confused, you're confused. And I get why a lot of parents are like uncomfortable with having the conversation with children, because if you open a child up and you allow them to have that space to look at things from different ways and different perspectives, then you do put a target on their back. This is just the reality of it all. We live in a reality where you need to function and you need to navigate through life in a certain way. You need to do things in a certain way, and if you don't, you get a target. Like people gonna make fun of you. People gonna ostracize you. People gonna alienate you. People gonna harass you. And so, in order to protect your child, you give them the script. You say, "Hey, this is the script. This, you gonna follow this, and this gonna keep you safe." But guess what? If every child is following that script, it's one thing for them to follow that script. It's another thing for them to alienate others who have the courage not to follow the script. And I think that's what upsets me the most with society. It's not the children who follow the script. It's the children who have been conditioned to feel like they have to shame and they have to ostracize and they have to alienate other children who have the courage not to follow the script, who have the courage to say, "You know what? I got the same script you got. But you know what? It's this in my spirit. I cannot follow that script. I will not follow that script. I refuse to follow that script. That script does not speak to me. This narrative does not speak to me. This just doesn't feel right for me." Like some of us, we can follow the script and we could do it till we die and be okay with it. I don't have a problem with you following the script. It take all kind to make the world go around. If following the script works for you, then follow the script. But stop teaching your children to condemn beings who are comfortable and who have the courage and who have the capacity to choose to do something different, to choose to be a different example, to choose to model something else. Because if everyone is afraid to model um, certain parts of the story, then we do a disservice to our children because we don't present them with all of the information. When you're in a court and you're judging, how can you pass your judgment if you haven't heard the whole story? That's like having court and saying, "Now we would like to hear from the plaintiff." No, we don't want to hear from the defense. No, we don't. And so, like in society, when we have, them saying, "Oh, the gay agenda, they putting this in our face. Oh, they putting trans people in our face. They putting all this stuff in our face. They putting all this stuff. Oh, this is wrong. This is an agenda." This is like saying, "You know what? I only want to hear from the defendant. I don't want to hear from the plaintiff. I don't. I'm just the plaintiff. Defense, go ahead and rest because we ain't trying to hear shit you saying. Or plaintiff, just go ahead and rest because we not. we're not really interested. Like, we already made our decision. We already know what we believe. We all believe the same thing. We don't even want to hear your side of the story. And so, um, stop grooming children not to be willing to hear the other side of the story. If you're that afraid that the other side of the story is going to control them or change their lives, then guess what? You can't make nobody be something that they wasn't destined to be anyway. You can't force somebody to be something that they weren't going to be, because eventually that moment of clarity is going to come, and they're going to say, oh, this is not for me. And so if it whether it was just meant to be a part of their journey for a reason or just a season, it was still meant, and they could be beneficial to someone else and help someone else. But the opportunity has, like, the information should be presented. Living in a society that gives us options to hear from other sides and to see things from different angles, that's important. So yeah, I think I said what I wanted to say in this video. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna light a candle, because I have not lit a candle in a video in a while. So let me light a candle. Name, shit, games, and drink games. Games. Side possums and Jesse James. Last I figure, ass walking in city liquor. Last one to walk up in, fast talking city slicker. Got bags on the 30 chicks with makeup. Bail out quick, on the 7:30 wake up. Roll back up on the... So I haven't lit a candle in a video in a while, but we're gonna light one today. Hold on, because I'm about to burn my finger trying to light this damn candle. We light this candle to acknowledge the ancestors who have transitioned this world today, um, yesterday, and every day since I've been away from my altar. This candle acknowledges the past, present, and the future as the Trinity. As I blow out this candle on the physical plane, it grows with intensity and purpose on the spiritual plane, preparing us for times that are now. Thank you, God, Goddess, a man, a woman, Laylim, Liller. Thank y'all. So we had a good talk. We talked today. We talked today. We talked today. We talked today. And thank you everybody who understood that I was processing and unpacking in the last video. I'm gonna say this, and I'm not gonna say this in a messy tone. I'm gonna say this to be honest. That video could have went totally different. For people who know the backstory um, regarding um, her being booked um, at the conception of the House of Tulips, like her being asked to speak there, and then just seeing how this all played out. You know, that video that I did yesterday could have been a totally different conversation, could have been had if I had not grown. And so I'm glad that a lot of people in the comment section, like there were, you know, like a lot of people in the comment section, they were really getting it. You know, I was very vulnerable in that video, and I wasn't attacking. I was saying some things that I felt were truths from my perspective. This is how I see it looking in. I'm not opposed to people telling me their opinions of me or their perception of me, but let's talk about it. Let's not just hear your side. Let's hear both of our sides. So I'm glad that more people are starting to get me. I'm glad that more people are starting to understand my intentions and the purpose behind, you know, why I speak out, why I say certain things. We have to have members in our community who are willing to be unbiased, who are willing to be vulnerable enough to speak the truth as they see it, so that we can have conversations that challenge us all to see a bigger picture or to see a more broader picture or more broader perspective than we have in the past. Because what we have is gatekeepers telling the story, and it's like politics. You only hear this, and your brain doesn't get a chance to click because you heard that. And you may not agree with that, and you may not agree with this. And you may find your medium or what you believe or what you feel to be true from being exposed to this and being exposed to that. A man, a woman. So thank you for everyone who supported the video and who understands that I'm going to continue to speak out on things that I feel moved to speak about. And one of the things that I feel moved to speak about is this Black Indigenous trans experience, because I've been walking through this journey for what? I'm 47. I started my transition at 14. Baby, you do the math. It's been a long time. It's been a long one. So anyway, well, I'm finna be 47. I love y'all. Thank you for joining me. Dambadandorase Kua keep spinning and turning Iangani Iyanko Kalukalo, which means I'm a child of God Goddess, and if I am, you know you are.